One of the things that I began to hear early as I began to interview scientists and writers on this topic was this kind of hush-hush discussion that with these billionaires and this kind of unlimited money available for this kind of research, would it be possible to jump the track, so to speak? Would it be possible if a brilliant group of scientists with unlimited financing from people who had unlimited money, let's say in a country where you could do pretty much anything you wanted to, could they leap ahead of the constraints of modern medical science and perhaps bring this thing to fruition 20, 30, 40 years earlier? And the popular term for this was garage science or garage biotech, and there was a lot of whispering that it was actually happening, and some of these billionaires were actually putting together research centers in countries, for example, like Cuba, where if you had a friend in your local dictator, you could do pretty much anything you wanted to, including human trials. So there was a little discussion about that, and that fascinated me as I began to outline the story. I was surprised in biotechnology that some of the characters are so colorful. You don't think of scientists as colorful, eccentric people, but a few of them are, and most notably James Watson and others are pretty far out there, and because they're so brilliant, they're right on the edge of human intellectual power that they get a little goofy. So, and I was also fascinated by, it was just beginning then, but it was the injection of religious politics into American medical research had begun to manifest itself. Some of the scientists got in trouble in Massachusetts for using embryos from women they had paid to donate their embryos. The whole question about the morality of this and religious implications had just started. So that kind of accelerated this idea that perhaps garage biotech was a distinct possibility. I was lucky enough to befriend Walter Funk. He is an eminent molecular biologist and helped me develop the book from the very beginning. He helped me develop the scientific scenario of a treatment. He helped me with the speech and the business community and what it was like to be a scientist in biotech. Walter was a tremendous help to me, and I could not have written this book without him. And as I began to work on the story, Dr. Fossil told me something in Michigan when I went to visit him. He wrote one of the first books on this topic, Reversing Human Aging. And he's an MD, he's a physician. He was also the first head of the Progeric Children's Foundation. He worked with progeric children. And he told me as we were having dinner one night just how hard it was to watch these children die. And I've worked at a medical school, I've worked in an emergency room, and I know how difficult it is when children die on any caregiver, especially doctors. And he said, you know, I just got to him every single time one of them died. And so I wanted the character in my novel to be motivated by the desire to prevent the death of one more of these children. And I've been asked by many readers, you know, is the science and the technology in your book, is it science fiction? What is it as science? Does this stuff actually exist? And I've answered the question many, many times at many book signings and other things. And the answer is yes. All of the technology, all of the science in my book, including synthetic genes, including artificial chromosomes, either exists or has been proposed. And I took the lead from Michael Crichton. I was lucky enough to work with him on one of his projects. I took his lead in that I wanted this book to be very plausible, very believable. You can look up the technology anytime in any of it. In fact, a little piece of the technology ended up on the cover of The Economist magazine the other day. This is three-dimensional printing. The caption is, "This violin was made using an EOS laser sintering 3D printer," which is some of the technology used in tissue engineering, artificial organ building, artificial human parts production, including heart valves and knee joints, other things that exist today. So the answer to the question about the science in Forever and Ever is that yes, all of it either exists or has been proposed. One of the very gratifying things that has happened since the Forever and Ever has been out and has been building a readership on Kindle and other venues is I've gotten a lot of compliments on the characters in this story. People particularly like the character of Darla, an aging artist who is the first to be treated with this gene-based aging reversal technology. I drew most of these characters from the scientific community here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And when the book was first published, one of the local newspapers here, the East Bay Express, did a cover story on my book and about the guessing that was going on in the local biotechnology and scientific community about who the characters in the book were, and it was a lot of fun. I based all of the characters in the book on actual living scientists who were in this field, and one of whom won a Nobel Prize just last year, which happens in the book. So it was a lot of fun drawing the characters, and I was asked one time, why did you want the first person treated to be an artist? And I got the idea from the Space Shuttle Challenger. When they sent up a teacher, they were going to start sending laymen from all walks of life up in the shuttle, a poet, a musician, a teacher, an artist. And I thought, well, you know, that would be an artist would be the perfect person to describe the sensations and the feelings and the thinking of actually regressing from a body age of 80 and change to 30 in a period of 3 or 4 months. And so that's why I selected an artist to be the first person treated with this revolutionary gene-based therapy. One of the things that happens in my novel Forever and Ever is that the story suddenly expands from a story about scientists creating a gene-based therapy that reverses human aging and provides engineered human immortality in a youthful state. The story suddenly expands to include something that fascinated me from the very beginning, and it was first detailed in a book by a very famous American, Francis Fukuyama, in his book, Our Transhuman Future. And in this book, Fukuyama, who thinks deeply about the future of America and other parts of the world, talked about the consequences of the biotechnology revolution, including extended lifespan, and what he got interested in, which is what he calls gene wars. If at some point in the future it became possible to genetically engineer human beings to select the kind of traits that you wanted, you know, the obvious option lists are, you know, athletic ability, hair color, intelligence, etc. Wouldn't that entail some kind of national, cultural priorities? In other words, what would you want your genetically altered children to be good at, to do? And there are some people who think that one of the things you'd want them to be good at is diplomacy, manipulating power, charisma, etc. And I got interested in a Renaissance type character that actually exists in different people, but I wanted a billionaire character who was not just another lucky fascist, another rich idiot who stumbled into money. I wanted this person to be a real Renaissance man, to be a real thinker, to be a giver, to be a man who was normally in our country, in America, when people were successful in business, they would then go into government and lead their country, and that was the ultimate accolade, was to be either a senator or to serve as president. Those days are gone forever, but at one time, the American giants went from business into government and served their country, and so I decided to write this Walter's character in the novel as not only a billionaire with unlimited money, but a man who thought deeply about the future, about the implications of gene genetic engineering, had a very well developed sense of geopolitical realities, and so what happens in the story is that suddenly it's about this larger world that this billionaire has been funding for quite some time, with the character he's working with, Will Balin, in this story, who is developing his aging reversal treatment. It's kept secret from most of the other characters in the story for quite a while into the story, but then bursts onto the story in a very big way.